Hello and welcome to Laytechs Weekly, episode 21st October 2020. Laytechs Weekly is brought to you by Laytechs, your protection from tech ignorance. My name is Sean. News of the week. Humans are fighting over the moon. What else is new? We can't even stop fighting over finite resources on Earth, and now we are fighting over what's beyond our skies. In 1967, okay, this is go on a little bit of a history trip on all these treaties and agreements on the moon and the space and beyond. 1967, the Outer Space Treaty was signed, which laid down foundational principles of space exploration. The key thing in this treaty says that it should be peaceful and it should benefit all mankind, not just one country. Yeah, right. Then we had the Moon Agreement in 1979 that tried to prevent exploitation of outer space resources, but that wasn't approved by every country. So the key thing to remember here is that at those times, space exploration still felt like something very far off because late 1966, the Americans went to the moon. They're very happy. They felt that it was the new frontier kind of thing. So all these agreements and treaties came about. But what happened was after that, everybody stopped thinking about going to space. They only care about exploiting every inch of the world. Then lately came the Artemis program, which was only signed by 8 countries, including the US, Luxembourg, Canada, Japan, UAE, and Australia, and some other countries as well. The agreement itself is more of a bilateral agreement rather than binding laws. But it does set a stage as precedent for future agreements if it gets passed. All countries who sign into this agreement actually have their own interest in mind because they do have space programs and they are ready to exploit the kind of like moon resources and raw materials and stuff like that. So there are countries like Russia who actually refused to sign it, claiming that it was too US-centric and all the content was a little bit too biased towards the America side, and mostly people who sign are actually allies of the US, and it feels very political from the get-go. There is also another reason is that since Trump is up for elections very soon, and he also wants astronauts to be on the moon by 2024, it felt a bit rushed, kind of like a political thing to gather support from different parts of the American border. So in any case, my personal opinion here is this, right? I think we have to learn how to grow out humans have to learn how to grow out of this exploitative nature before we go out and seek external resources, because if we do not change the way we consume and the way we communicate or live with our surrounding, and be in the circle of life rather than be on top of it and the circle of life as our slaves, no matter where we go, we will end up sucking it dry, and we will be a very destructive force the more power we have. Apple removes Sidestep Stadia streaming app. Apple still isn't allowing game streaming apps into its platform, and game developers have been actively finding loopholes around their rulebook. Microsoft managed to find a workaround by offering a free app that utilizes the user's Xbox console as a server for games, and the xCloud subscription that resides within the console itself. So you need a server. That means you need to have an Xbox in order an Xbox with an xCloud subscription that feeds in the game into the Xbox, and then use your Xbox as a server for this app that works on your iOS device. There is an app called Stadium that found a loophole in Apple's rules, stating that apps can be built to use the quote open internet and web browser apps. By using this method to reach out users outside of the App Store, the makers of this app created an app that streams Stadia games through a web browser. But Apple isn't happy with it. But they cannot do anything to bend the rulebook that they created. Right? Technically, it's correct what they did, because They are using the browser apps. These guys are using the browser apps, and they're not breaching any of the rules. So instead of rewriting the rules, Apple said that the app code extends WebKit with native API to connect with Bluetooth, which in rough translation means that they don't want this API to connect with Bluetooth device, which means the Bluetooth device is the Stadia controller that is used to play the games. So if you can't use the Stadia controller to play the games, you can't play Stadia games, because that's part of the deal. It's a very good move by Apple, because instead of rewriting the rulebook in order to cater to these things, and they can't catch them for the app function itself, they catch them on a Bluetooth connections that users can't game without. So strike one for Apple on this one. And the only way to do it right probably is to use your console as hardware. And because Google Stadia is not a console-based gaming system, they still haven't found a way to work around this yet. Samsung Galaxy S range coming in January. If you're a Samsung user, getting a little FOMO on Apple's announcement of the new iPhone 12s, don't you worry. There are new leaks that Samsung's new line of flagship could arrive as early as January 2021. They will feature similar front screen layout with perhaps a smaller punch hole, it seems like it, while the back camera setup will be less bumpy and more streamlined. I think it looks a little bit more flat now. It's built in instead of it having a huge bump on the corner. There is also news that an S Pen could be included into the Ultra range, which starts to get a little confusing. If you are a Galaxy S20 or 30 or 21 with a pen, does it make it an S30 Note or S Note 30 or not a Note? Which comes to the biggest question is, will Samsung name it the S21 or the S30? If they name it, because the last one was S10, so they skipped the 11, so they made it, they went to S20, but Huawei started going 20, 30, 40, and Samsung may go 21, 22, 23, and then the next, by let's say 2030, they go next S30, I think. We don't know. We'll find out. Apple MagSafe plots a portless future. This is quite scary, but exciting at the same time, but more scary. Apple has been working and failing on making their own wireless charging docks for a few years now, their Qi chargers. And now we know why. They want to do it in such a way that only their selected models can work with these special charging docks. It will be called the MagSafe, a name similar to those magnetically attached charging ports on old MacBooks we all love. I love that MagSafe is because when you have the cable there and you use your laptop and you're charging and someone walks by, snags on a cable and it just pops out. It doesn't drag your laptop along because it's just magnetically connected. But then they all move to USB-C, which good side is that you can buy an external USB-C and put it in and it works. Downside of it is you don't have MagSafe. There is nothing much to talk about the MagSafe except that it charges Apple devices like how other Qi chargers charge any device, except it only works with Apple devices released this season onwards, which means that iPhone 12s, Apple Watch 6, I don't know if the 5s and all that work as well, but I'm not too sure. But iPhones, yes, because they have this special magnetic ring built into the phone that will make it work with their MagSafe charger. So the MagSafe charger is actually kind of a little booklet. It opens up, you get two sides to charge. That technical thing, it's not too interesting. What is interesting here is that this year, Apple will stop shipping charging adapters and earphones because they think we don't need charging adapters and earphones, and because, quote, for environmental reasons. But of course, smart people know better than to believe their crap, right? Because they just want to save money. MagSafe is also setting them up for a near future where corded charging of their devices will be obsolete, which means that perhaps in the next 2 years or so, iPhones will not come with a charging port. Okay, you might think this is very interesting, it's damn amazing, no charging ports, then you have like a table full of all the Qi chargers and everything, one cable for all that. But there are a few problems here. Firstly, getting everyone to buy charging docks that don't even work with all Apple devices isn't exactly environmentally friendly. So why are you selling this environmentally friendly bullshit? Number 2, and a personal one, iPhone's hotspots onto Windows laptops are so bad that I bring a backup cable wherever I go, just in case it stops working. I plug in a cable, put it in there, and then I download and upload. Yes, you can say, yeah, but you can get a MacBook. No, I don't want to get a MacBook. I want to be able to use a Windows laptop or a Windows device and still be able to have similar, if not close to similar, experience in terms of file transfer and also in terms of hotspot connectivity. Do you know that you cannot download anything onto the iPhone over the air from a Windows device? Because I don't know, security. What security? Your OS language is written in such a way that no one wants to hack your stuff anyway. What security? I have to use, and in order to download from iPhone to the laptop, yeah, that's fine, but it's better to use the cable, it's nicer, right? But you can't go into the phone, which means that whenever I want to upload a video, I have to upload it to Google Photos and then download from Google Photos. That's a use of a lot of resources, not environmentally friendly. Okay, rant over. To me, this future sucks, especially because my problem isn't at all with Apple doing all these things. I mean, they can do whatever they want, right? Because I can always switch to Android. My problem is with Apple doing this under the false pretense that they care about the world. In fact, they don't. And my problem is that 2 years down the road, every other manufacturer will start doing the same thing. And it will devoid us of the simple and reliable thing as the cable. And that future sucks. It's all your fault, Apple. Speaking of which, now, good news about the Apple. I'm not all bash Apple and not praising them. I do praise them. I'm just critical of them because I use Apple products. Apple supports Spotify widgets, which means that Apple also supports a lot of third-party widgets, which is cool. So I was wrong about iPhone widgets being useless because they only support Apple apps, because initially they only support Apple apps, which makes sense because they just launched it and third-party creators haven't gotten it yet, and I thought that it only makes sense that Apple only support Apple widgets, Apple apps on widgets because they want everybody to use Apple apps. Apparently not. And I'm very happy to be wrong in this sense because most parts of the world use Spotify instead of Apple Music. I mean, I can use this site like one hand to count the amount of people I know who are tech geeks who use Apple Music, and it's less than half of this. Nobody uses Apple Music. And allowing Spotify to create widgets is a good thing. In fact, I hope all apps will start creating their own widgets. YouTube, Google Maps, Netflix, Stitcher, other podcasts besides Stitcher. I mean, I use Stitcher, but any other podcast can do that as well. Google Calendars. I personally don't like widgets because it feels very 2016. Like, as an Android user, we've gone through that phase before. It's kind of like hitting puberty. You have all the features you want, but you look kind of ugly and your phone is just a huge mess and you just want it clean now, as little screen as possible. But for Apple users who have not experienced this before, they should be allowed to enjoy widgets on their phones until such time they got bored and revert back to the standard screen. This week's Tech of the Week, LG's rollable TV goes mass production. It's expensive, like $87,000 expensive. It's a 67-inch OLED, not some Retina display thing or some HD whatever. And it rolls into the bottom console. It's literally rollable, kind of like blinds. There's a console below, in which it also houses your speakers and everything. Then it rolls up like a projector screen, but it's not a projector screen. It's an OLED TV. I know most of us will never buy this. It's too bloody expensive. Doesn't make sense. And That's not why this TV is this week's Tech of the Week. It was selected because it is a rollable screen. Think about it, right? This is like something out of a sci-fi movie that we have watched for a very long time. We wanted this to happen for the longest time. Today, it's bloody expensive and only the rich can afford. Fine, they will finance the R&D for it. Soon it will trickle down to cheaper TVs and ultimately onto our palms. Imagine our mobile devices coming up as rollable screens. I think Samsung unveiled this concept before a few years ago, maybe 3 to 4 years ago, about this rollable kind of like scroll type of mobile device. And this is so amazing. I'm very excited about this. And I hope that this is where mobile devices are going to. I mean, if you still have screens, like imagine an iPad, like just in the stick, and you just pull it out and you work. Pretty amazing, right? Yeah, that's all. That is all for this week's Laytechs Weekly. Laytechs Weekly is available on Anchor FM, Overcast, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and more. Our full videos are available on YouTube, and I post bits and clips on Instagram and Facebook. This is Laytechs Weekly, episode 21st October 2020. My name is Sean. Stay safe, wear a mask, stay home. Bye.